Hello, everybody. So I just got a new MIDI setup, and while I was waiting for it to be delivered after ordering it online, like everything is bought these days, I looked some stuff up and I noticed that it seemed fairly common to put videos of new MIDI setups online. So got the Korg Nano Studio, Korg NanoKONTROL Studio, and that was the part I knew I was going to get. And I wasn't sure what controller I was going to get. And when I went on the website to buy it, the Akai MPK Mini 3 was on sale. And I've been incredibly happy with this keyboard. So I just thought I'd show off my new little setup. And it's a setup I would highly recommend. So obviously it would work to lay down a bunch of songs and stuff. But what I bought it for was accompaniment. My main instrument is trombone, which goes a lot better with some accompaniment, especially since I like to do melodies on the trombone. Right behind that is guitar, and if there's not accompaniment for the guitar, it's really easy to fall into the trap of not doing anything but strumming chords on the guitar. So I did this so that I could quickly throw some accompaniment sections. I just wanted to set up so that I could quickly throw some accompaniment sections together and have something to jam along with, and I've been really happy with the keyboard. I wasn't sure what DAW I was going to use, but the one that came with the MPK Mini, which I just bought this one because it was on sale. I looked at it, it was on sale, and I was like, oh, well, that looks like a good one. And if not, I'll get another one later. I mostly just knew which mixing board controller I wanted. But the software that came with that, I was pretty happy with that too. We'll look at that here in just a moment. But the pads feel really nice. So good for laying down a quick drum beat. And the keys, at first, the sensitivity was, the velocity was set so that it was very sensitive. You just barely tap on it. My fingers aren't showing in the video. There we go. And you kind of have to hit pretty hard. And when I would do a scale, let me go to a keyboard instead of the strings. Keys, there we go. Whenever I would get to wrapping my thumb around, it's not shown on the video, but that note, it was constantly a whole lot quieter. My ring finger was also a lot quieter. And the velocity was set to be very, very sensitive, so it was picking that up a lot. So I went to look up how to change that, and I wasn't sure which menu to dig through. And I quickly learned that it's not even under a menu. You just do a long click on the full level, which immediately just tapping that affects the pads. And that pulls it up so that these four knobs are automatically assigned to the velocity on the keys. And this one's the black balance, because we want to back that off. The black keys, well, these are all black, but the flats and sharps sit up higher, so pretty much every human tends to hit those harder just because they're closer to where we're swinging our fingers from. But it's not even under a menu. And when I noticed that, I realized that, oh, the designers of this, they intended for us to change the velocity as often as we change the instrument on these things, which I kind of really like that. Usually that's something we set on a keyboard and it just stays that way. But it's basically a built-in function already assigned to knobs and stuff, so adjust it with the instruments. But after I saw that, I decided to back off and practice with it very, very sensitive and see if I can do something about those quiet fingers. My thumb, or whenever things wrap around, it would drastically change volume. And high sensitivity is good for that, I guess. The mixer, the thing I was originally looking for, I really like this. The DAW that came with the keyboard detected it, but nothing was mapped, which I thought was really nice. Because even if there's a bunch of default mappings, we're probably going to change those anyway. And if there's nothing by default, after we set the things we want, the other controls are blank. So it helps prevent accidents, was my thought on that. So I was really happy with that. Assigned it to a bunch of different things. For the live setup I was wanting, I only 8 channels will be enough. I just need a small accompaniment section along with some transport controls, which I did not match the labels. I did not set that up to match the labels. But there's 5 different scenes, so as far as mixing, it can do a lot of things, like set an overall drum track, which I think this is on. Oh, that's on the keys. Let me go back to drums. And set an overall drum track, and then on the next scene, can assign each pad to its own slider. Or what I did is just use one scene. Instead of going with 16 channels, I just did one scene, and the sliders are for bank A and the knobs are the volume on bank B, but have better control over them, and the labels on those buttons don't match at all when I do that. And then on another scene, I set it up so that there's like 4 effect sends, right? Reverb and compressor, and then a couple others that are appropriate for the thing. So some send and returns on that. I set the main volume. Actually, I set the computer volume and the output volume. That's kind of nice to have both of them. Lots of control, lots of different ways we can set it up. Along with those effect settings on that send, I also set up a 4-channel equalizer that I can send things to one at a time. So like the high and the low on the outside, and then use the middle ones, those middle 2 for like a parametric roll off. So the slider finds the range, and then one knob for the bandwidth and one knob for the cut. And same thing on this one. The slider finds the range of the frequency, and then a knob for the bandwidth and a knob for the roll off or cut or boost. I found that's a really nice setup. So there's 5 different scenes, lots of different ways to control that. Could even set this up to control notes and stuff, and like a string section, have the strings velocity on them coming from a slider instead of the key. Try different things, but for a mixer, I was really happy with this, and I was really happy with the setup. This keyboard on sale was $75. The regular price isn't much more than that, and the mixer was $150. It was a little bit more, but a really good setup. I'm really happy with it. I thought I'd share a video and kind of recommend the setup. So let's look at how to do this thing in action with the DAW that came with the MPK Mini Mark III keyboard. So I'll do a screen share to look at that. Okay, so here we are in the software MPC Beats that came with the MPK Mini 3 controller. I'll just open up a new empty project here. It's really easy to set up, just installed it. Actually, the most difficult part of setting it up was that the keyboard came with some licensed samples, which I didn't really need since I'm just looking at this to play around my living room. But it came with licensed samples, and I had to set up an iLock account for that and all the locking things down. That took longer than setting anything else up, but I probably could have bypassed it overall. Might as well look at this. So there's lots of samples available, not just the free ones. There's a site, mpcsamples.com. They have, obviously goes with that software, and they have a lot of free samples right there on it. Some pretty good sounds there. You just add them to a cart and download them. They have lots of not free ones too. Obviously the not free ones are better than the free ones. So the software is all pretty straightforward. I do have some things set to the console already, some global controls, but I'll start with setting that up. Because when you first come in here, when you go to preferences, on a Windows machine, obviously that would be, preferences would be under edit, but I'm on a Mac here. So under preferences, right over here on MIDI sync, the MPK Mini 3, this software came with that. So it detected that and mapped everything automatically. So that was kind of nice. And it detected the NanoKONTROL Studio. So I set that up as control and global and took those control functions off the keyboard. I went ahead and set it up, since there's a lot of buttons and sliders, I did set that up to track, to play around with stuff. But really, it's the keyboard's for tracking things, and then the other one's for controlling it. And global are like the transport controls. Things are going to be the same everywhere. The play button, the stop button, uh, the track wheel. Uh, uh, those things are going to be the same everywhere. So those go under global, and control is like the slider, typically the level and the pan and mute and solo, and the mixing part that's going to be unique to each project. So you're going to set those two up for the mixing board and track up for the keyboard. And then to map the things, these, but down here, these are buttons. Normally a status bar goes down here. I guess first off, we should check about loading in samples. Well, I was already talking about mapping. So this button right here, the second one over, that's the MIDI learn button. And we just set it up and assign each button. So like transport controls, those are on the global setting. So I already have them set up here. So the play button, the stop button, record, overdub. I did set them up different than on the labels. If it's a button and it comes in at absolute value, that acts like a momentary button. And some of them are set to toggle buttons, and just do a little bit there. You just choose the thing you want to set, and then click the learn button and hit whatever button or slider or knob. Make a quick adjustment with that one, and it'll assign it. We will see that very, very shortly. As soon as we get some tracks in here to map. But really easy to map. And then the project ones, we just add things for each individual project. So like we'll add a MIDI track, mixer volume. This is eventually going to be drums. So then we hit the enable the learn button, and I'm going to move the slider on track 1, scene 1, disable the learn, and now from the slider here, you can see as I move it on the mixing board MIDI controller, it's got control of that. Set the output, the main volume, and all that. It takes a little while to map those. We don't need to do every single one in the video, but we'll just do a few quick tracks. I guess the next thing is we need to load in some samples, right? Need some sounds. So under these buttons, this one right here came with it. There's lots of sounds in there. You would just search through the different projects that came with it, see what samples are there. I downloaded these other 3 from mpcsamples.com, some free sounds. So like this drum kit here, which I think I need this other menu. If I go to the drum kit, oh, nope, I didn't want that previous menu. Select the drum kit, and over here, I can just, oh, that's the bass. Which one's the drum kit? Oh, and just grab that and drag it over, and it will load that track in. And actually, it didn't just load that track in. It confused me at first. Just double click and rename that. You see now we got some samples there. Have the volume controlling that. So we're ready to lay down a drum beat here very shortly. And it didn't just bring that one in. It confused me at first because after I did that track, I'd come over here and try to do the same thing with the next one, and it says it's already loaded in. Actually, I'll go ahead and do that. If we go to an unused track and try to drag that in, this confused me a lot at first. Oh, it actually loaded in. Okay, last time I did that, it loaded all of my samples in for some reason, but it seemed to work this time. I don't hear it. Did that? No, that did not really load in. It acted like it loaded in, but it did not really load in. There's no sound coming from that. So I got a different error message last time. And right down here, this button over on the other side, this maps to our thing. So this is where we would choose the sound. So if I choose the bass for this, nice little bass sound coming from the keys. I'll rename that for track 2, and maybe just a keyboard sound, or some strings. I'll add some strings in for this one. Double click that. So now we have that string section we can load into track 3. We give it a name so that we can keep track of it, and probably map those outputs. So you can see it doesn't take very long. We're only up to, I think overall it's only up to about 15 minutes. I'll just do the volume here for a quick example. So notice we already loaded in the drums. So probably set the bass. Just do the volume for now. And with that selected, I can click learn. And just wiggle track 2, and it knows which slider to use for that now. Same thing for track 3, and that'll probably be enough to put a sample together for the video. Which track's loaded in? Okay, so close those. Close this panel, and I think we're ready to start laying down tracks now. Yeah. Let's start with a drum beat. Whoop, that's a bass. So click here. And it's set to 2 loops by default. That'll work. I'm gonna turn this tempo down. Maybe 95. That'll be good. If I enable the metronome, which I also I set metronome controls up on the mixing board, a little bit more useful there. Okay, that'll maybe work. It's set for 8th notes. We can change that, and I'll do a nice slow beat since it's on 8th notes. I also set these up so this one goes back and forth per beat, or really whatever it's set for, which I think is 8th notes right now. And this one goes back and forth per MIDI event. So obviously it just goes to the beginning when there's nothing there. But we'll have something there in a second. And I set these 2 buttons up. So the one over here is the overwrite record. And the one that's labeled as record is the overdub record. So I can go ahead and arm the track and get that started. Let me undo that. So we have undo and all those features like normal. And try that again. So arm the track, then record. So a little bit off on that one, but we can just undo it, come back to the beginning, arm the track. Oh, so maybe not the best beat I've ever done. I'll do something for the overdub. Where's the ride symbol? There's a ride. So arm the track for overdubbing. That'll work. Gets a start. Just looking at the process now, I think I'll make a second video later where I in there with the guitar or trombone in like 5 minutes lay down an accompaniment thing, what I was sort of looking for there. So this button will bring us back to the previous event. I guess you can see how it's mapped there now. It jumps event to event. So that's a drum track. Probably not the best drum beat I've ever done. Definitely not the best drum beat I've ever done. Next up is bass. Maybe I'll do the keys first, or the synth strings first. Then I have some sort of chord progression to go with it. Maybe something in E. Yeah, that'll work. Just a quick 1-4 in E. Arm the track. What was I just doing? Yeah, something like that. Scroll up a little bit here so we can see that. Yeah, looks like that came through okay. Got our volume controls. The phone volume. The phone being used as a camera is probably picking up the drum volume a lot, so I'm going to turn that down. Hopefully we can still hear the strings through there some. It all seems to work. So you have the nice controls here instead of moving the mouse, slowly moving the mouse around the screen. And obviously things like this, like changing between the tracks, can be assigned to some of these buttons that aren't in use. Just as easily as anything else. It just takes time to do that. So for a bass line, what were we in? E. Just something simple will work there. So arm the track, hit record. Come back, track unarmed, so that sounds like it'll work. And you can see it's very, very quick to get a beat laid down. Or not a beat, I shouldn't call that a beat. Get an accompaniment laid down so that when I'm home by myself, I can, if I like grabbing the guitar or the trombone, in just a couple minutes time, I can lay down a quick accompaniment section that's just going to loop over and over and over again and have something to jam over and play, to jam over while I feel like playing music. So, really nice MIDI setup. I would highly recommend this. The keyboard was on sale for about $75, and I'm really happy with this. Obviously, there are much, much nicer keyboards. The mixer was the one I was actually knew I was going to go buy. That was about $150, and I'm super happy with this mixer. Which, by the way, it has Bluetooth. So if you don't have enough USB ports, I just use the USB. But it also has Bluetooth, so you don't have to give up a USB port on your computer in order to use that. So I just thought I would share that with you. Really good setup. I would highly recommend it if anybody's out looking for a new MIDI setup, especially for accompaniment to when you're sitting around jamming by yourself. It works great for that. In the next video, I think I'll come back and show how I do that in about less than 5 minutes time. Have a nice little beat going, and then have something to jam over very, very quickly. So see you then.